Good morning, everyone. As always, welcome to the channel and thanks for stopping by and hanging out for a few. My name is Rich Charpentier. I'm the channel host, and you landed here because you probably have interest in drones, 3D modeling and mapping, 2D modeling and mapping, and so many more things that go into building our drone business. So one of the big parts of my drone business is doing construction progression reporting. Now, a lot of people pop by this channel to see things about WebODM or Metashape or other 2D and 3D modeling platforms. The modeling is just one part of doing progression reporting. So there's not a standard formula to what types of things clients want, and it's up to you when you're first talking to your clients to establish what types of things they want. Of course, we do a lot of two-dimensional orthomosaic models for before and after to show construction sites changes. You can do that with video too, though. So we've spent a lot of time on this channel, and I think maybe too much sometimes, talking about that side of things. But let's talk a little bit about time-lapse videos for our construction progressions. So right now on screen, you're looking at one of my currently active job sites. And fortunately, it's not raining in this one. Our monsoon season's finally kicked in, so it's been wet outside lately. But so this one is for a client who's based out of California, and they're moving out here to Prescott and they're building a new home and they wanted to track the progress of the home. So this isn't just for brokers, realtors, builders. Standard clients, standard residential buyers could look to us for doing progression reporting for them. And one part of that progression reporting can be doing the time-lapse video. So I'm just going to hit the space bar here. We're in Final Cut Pro right now. And so this is a recent flight for the client. This is also in an awkward location. This is close to KPRC. So we had to do a special Lance request and get unlocking codes for our drone and everything. So I'm just going to rewind this here, and we're going to actually do a good bit of walkthrough on how to do these progression videos, but this is not a complete guide for this, okay? We're doing this pretty quick, and we're going to try to keep it under a half an hour. But if you'd like further information about how to set these types of things up, I'd suggest going to classes.azdrone.net, and we've got a couple of longer classes there going through some of these setups. So I'm just going to hit the space bar, and as you can see on May 23rd, the lot was cleared, the lot was leveled, and so that gives the owner a good idea, okay, we're getting ready to build. Let's go ahead and hit the space bar and let this start playing out, because this is what I want you to see here really quick. As we get the down tilt, we just faded from that open lot to the walls going up. So the construction got going very quickly, and by the time the property owner got in touch with us to say, let's get back out there again, we'd missed the concrete pour and we missed the initial structure going up, just the walls. So I'm going to hit space on this again. So that was July 11th, and then we returned just, a few days later, July 24th, where things are actually getting closed up on the exterior. So as you can see, this time-lapse video is very telling, and for the buyer, for the client, this can tell them a lot about the status of their overall build. So how do we do this? How do we get this thing? So we had it flash through several different days here. So how did we make that part happen? Not just the editing and Final Cut, but how did we get this all lined up in advance? Well, let me go ahead and hit my, I'm just changing keys here really quick. And let's go ahead and also change to the different visual here. So let's take a look and see what types of video files were actually used to create this video time-lapse. Just pulling up the folder for that particular client. So we did a flight for them on April 13th, May 23rd, July 11th, and July 24th. So we do these visits when the owner or the builder or the construction group gets in touch with us and says, let's do another flight. So our earliest flight was in April, and I have a folder called video, and I know that I had the setup flight ready to go here. So taking a look at this particular video, you're going to say to yourself, well, it's just open field, Rich. And as I move along, we'll see the drone make a turn, And once it's made that turn, that's where things get started. So this is the first flight for them where we've just got raw lands. Now, if I close this one down and we move on to the next one, so that was April 13th, so let's go to May 23rd. Check out the video file for May 23rd, and I know it's the second one. And if we start this up, we see the drone taking off, we see the drone moving over, and then the drone makes a turn and starts following this path that we just saw, where we saw the three different types blend together. So here's the original raw footage, basically, going around that roughed out area, that flattened area. And we then repeat this flight again, the same exact flight, we repeat it again. So let's go to July 11th, go to the video on that one. And I think that's the first one here. And let's just move it. Yep, so the drone's moving to its position. And now it's following that same flight path again. And finally, if we take a look at the last one of these, July 24th, and let me see, that's the first one there. I didn't organize things well on that one. You see the drone moving to the same position again, and then starting its orbit around this. So in order to collect this kind of video, which follows the same flight path over and over again, we're going to need to have some kind of autonomous flight app that we've pre-set up our flights with so that we can reuse them over and over again. So in the case of this one, let me minimize this, and let's go ahead and minimize Final Cut Pro as well. And check this out. I already had this set up for you. So what we're looking at here is the Litchi Mission Hub. So we used the Litchi Mission Hub for this particular flight, and we blocked out this area. So we have our point number 2, point 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to 1. We also have a point of interest at the center, and we set that point of interest to 20 feet above ground level. You'll notice that my flight, each of these little waypoints here, are all flying at an altitude of 70 feet above ground level. Since we had to do a specific request through Lance and get the unlock codes for our DJIs, we were keeping our flights 100 feet above ground level and lower. That's what we got permission to do. And in the case of this one, after checking out the site initially, I made a decision that 70 feet above ground level for this flight path would work out very nicely. So if we zoom in here just a bit, each of the times that we saw the drone taking off, I was right about here. The drone would take off, and then it would fly to waypoint number 1. So there's waypoint number 1 right there. Waypoint number 1 is directed at the point of interest in the center here. So that part where the drone flies over and then quickly does that turn and starts following that path, that is where it's following this flight path for us. So this isn't a super long path or anything. It only takes a couple of minutes to run this one, and then we can do other images as well. But so let's take a look one more time at that video. So just talking about that video, let's roll this back here. So here's the drone taking off. It hasn't started its official flight yet. So the movements are very jerky here because I didn't care about this. I cared about the flight around the property. So we're moving out to where that position 1 is. So right now the drone's flying over to position 1. And once it gets to waypoint 1, it's going to make another dramatic turn. And once that turn's done, I know that I can line things up with that. So there goes that super harsh turn right there. And the moment that harsh turn is done, now it is at waypoint 1, moving on to waypoint 2, moving on to waypoint 3. So we see how we've done this and how we repeat the same flight over and over again. Now you do not have to use just Litchi. I'm using Litchi for this example. I also use Ground Station Pro, I use Drone Harmony, I use Map Pilot Pro for other repeatable flights. So we've got a lot of tools here. And this is why I say this is not a complete guide, because I can't show you through every one of the tools that we could possibly use. So instead I'm showing you what I'm using, and we're giving you a quick and dirty of how this all comes together. So we've got this flight path here that we set up with Litchi. Litchi can automatically synchronize with my mobile devices over the web. And when we're on location, we're using the Litchi app on an iPhone 8. And we've got all of our planned flights saved there. By the way, before we move on here, I just want to show you. So I use Litchi's Mission Hub a lot. So when I go to the open here, we have a ton of Litchi missions. All of these, most of these, I should say, are still active right now. We usually clear off the inactive ones afterward, but we do save them in case we ever get a call back from a client who says, could you refly that flight path that you did for us 3 years ago? I can say to them, yeah, I've got that saved. So, all right, we go out for each of these site visits and we fly the same route over and over again to show people the changes that have happened with the site. I'm pulling up one more item here. So the other reason this came to mind is because recently we did a new reel for our business to show people what it is we do. And part of what we do is that construction progression tracking. So if I hit on here, so we also do interior, exterior drone flights outside. And we show off some of the interiors here, but I want to get to our new construction time lapse. There we go. So now we're at the new construction time lapse, and you'll recognize what we've been talking about. So here's that flight. But in addition to that one, let's go ahead and just move this along a little quicker. There we go. And so one of our other earliest sites that we did started way back in 2019. And as you can see, when we did that first video to the Clark Whalen build site, they still had concrete was just poured on one thing. Some of the structures were going up, but this was the starting point we had. This is when we got contacted by them to track this. So the drone operation was kind of an afterthought on their part. Their venture capitalist said we'd like a drone pilot to document some of this. That's where we came in. And fortunately, we still got there early enough, even though they started some of the project, to get some really cool time lapse here. So you can see that port area. And then here is the end of the project. So, you know, over a year later, there's the end of that project. But so we actually made multiple flights using the Litchi app to showcase multiple angles of that particular property. So, you know, on a single family residential, doing one particular flight repeated over and over again might be good enough. But when you start getting into these larger build sites where, you know, new infrastructure is coming in, or multi-family units are coming in, or it's a giant warehouse, you might want to do a couple of angles. You might want to do flying from one side and flying from the other side, and doing all of those as time lapses as well. Now, let's stop here for a second. So why is this of interest? Well, I will tell you, some of the job sites that we've done, we get feedback from the clients right away. The clients love the two-dimensional ortho mosaics because it gives them a really quick snapshot of what changed this month, or what changed in the last 2 weeks, or what changed in the last week. And we've actually gotten feedback from people on the ground as well. Some of our larger projects, we've actually heard from construction managers and construction people explaining why certain things weren't done. So they knew that we were actually showcasing what's changed over time. And one of the big things is making sure that the build out is on schedule. Now, of course, we've got weather at some points in time where we're not going to be able to, you know, have a lot of progress going on. And as the drone operator on some of these sites, I've actually felt bad sometimes sending things back to my clients saying to them, well, things really haven't changed too much, and here's the visuals to prove it. So I actually had some construction workers come up to me to explain why staircases weren't in, why shaded areas weren't completed. It was very funny, and I always explained to them, I'm just the drone operator. You know, this just gets passed on to management, and then you guys can discuss it with them. But so as you can see, this can be a very valuable tool. Now, after we've done our flights, so like I said, this is not a complete guide. We're going pretty quick. Because after we've performed these flights, we still have another step. We've gotten the flight paths that are exactly the same over and over again. Now we need to overlay them together. So we need to put our presentation together. Let me minimize this, and let's go back to Final Cut Pro. So when we're working on doing these progression time-lapse videos, we've got to layer some of the stuff together. Now, I've got some more from this job site that wasn't just progression stuff. It was actually, so what's it looking like today? So we give them some of that progression, and then we give them some of the just brand new stuff, because it is a little more exciting than seeing the same thing over and over again. Now, the part where things blend together, you don't have to be a Final Cut user to do this. You can do similar things with Davinci Resolve or with Adobe's Premiere Pro, or several of the other editors out there on market. Me personally, I'm using Final Cut Pro because I licensed it years ago, so I don't have to spend on anything else. Of course, Davinci is free as well, so if you're getting into this and you don't have a video editor selected yet, you might want to look into Davinci because it's free and it does a lot of what my Final Cut does. So I have one little section right here, and this is called a compound clip because it puts several clips together. But if I double click on this, what you will see, there's the May 23rd, and then there's the July 7th, and then there's that July 24th. Now, in order to achieve this, number one, I had to layer these videos to align them. Number two, we see things like the date and the visit, so July 24th versus July 11th. That's using motion tracking software that I utilize on Final Cut, so motion tracking text, and it tracks along where the video is moving, which is awesome. So we can put these things together pretty easily. Now, rather than just looking at this one, I'm going to go to my Final Cut library, and I'm going to create a new event. Now, once again, we're going to speed along through this, but this should give you the general idea. And like I said, not a complete guide, but a pretty decent guide. And as I said, stop by classes.azdrone.net and you can get more in depth with some of this topic. So we're just going to do a time-lapse demo is what we're going to name this. Control C. I'm going to say OK. And so let's see here. Where is that? Call out time-lapse demo. There we go. I'm going to put that into the project name as well. And now we're going to go grab some things. So we're going to minimize this one. And we are going to grab our videos. So I'm not going to use the April 13th one because that was just empty, boring land. I want to be able to match these things up so that you can see it very well. So we're going to go to the May one first. And I think that was the second one, and it sure was. All right, so I'm dragging this in here, and I'm just going to scrub through this really quick because this was the autonomous flight executed by Litchi, and we want to get to where that turn is. There's that sharp turn. And right about there, okay, right there, that's where the flight really starts. So that first part we don't need, and what I'm going to do is just get my blade tool. We're going to get rid of that first part there. All right, so now there is our first one. Let's go grab our second one. So that was May 23rd. Next one is June 11th. We're going to go into our video again. I'm going to make sure that we've got the right video. Yes, we do. All right, so let's grab that one, and we're going to just put this on top of the other layer. And we're going to watch this now because we need to see where everything starts going. So there we go, the drone takes off, and we're waiting for that turn. Okay, there's that hard turn completed, and I'm going to grab my blade tool again. What we're going to do is drag this one over, and now we've got that on top, but I can hit the hide key really quick. So before and after, and it's very close. It's not perfect, but it's close enough to where when these two fade together, you're going to notice it. So before we do anything else, I'm going to grab the last one where the walls were going up. So let's go to July 24th here. And there's our MP4, and I'm going to bet that this is the right one. Yep, it is. Okay. So you get to recognize some of your stuff as you move along. So there's the third one here. And what we need to do now is scrub through here, get it to where that turn takes place. Boom, there's that hard turn. So maybe right about there. So these are going to be very, very close. And now what we can do is let's go ahead and hide that one, and take a look here. So there it goes. And let's unhide the middle one now. So very close to each other. Once again, not perfect. You know, I'm speeding along through here so that we're not on here for an hour together, but you get the idea of what we're doing here. So what we're going to do, just to make this, and this is quick and dirty, I'll usually do this a little neater beforehand, but I'm going to turn this one off, turn this one off. So we're going to start with that first day, and let's let this run through for, let's do it for 5 seconds here. So I'm just looking at my little timer, and we'll get it to, we're gonna call that just about 5. I'm gonna use my blade tool now, and we're going to turn the second layer on. So now, let's go ahead and watch this. So a little jitter here too, because I haven't done the stabilization or anything on this yet. And we also didn't do any transition here. So there's that first part. So it looks a little messy at first, but you can clean this up really nicely. So here we go with just the flattened property. And then there we go with the walls going up. So we could do this one for 5 seconds as well. So let's bring that up to 10. Here we go. Leave it right about there. I'm going to hit the blade key, and blade. And now, let's go ahead and now we've got that third layer. So let's see what's happening here. So here's the May flight. Here's the early July flight, so we could blend this together. And here's the July 24th flight. So this is starting to look pretty good. Now let's just bring this one over, and we'll call that 15 seconds as well. And so I could bounce back and forth with these and do the same thing again. Let's hit the A key. So we could go back, we could have it fly here, and then maybe show off that early July one, because we don't want to see the vacant part. So there we go. Now we're doing that one instead. And we can stop that right there. And now we could put the smoothing transitions into this, all those types of things. So I am going to use my blade key down here as well. And what we can do, let's go ahead and do a cross dissolve for this one. Just so you can see this, once again, this is not a tutorial on using Final Cut by any stretch of the imagination. But I just wanted you to get to see this. There we go. And let's get that last one in there as well. And now let's play this again, and it should be a smoother transition for us. And once again, I still haven't edited this video, but that is a much nicer fade in, right? And it does look like it belongs, and it doesn't look too shoddy to me. So now, you know, the client's probably not going to notice it. We're going to nitpick ourselves like crazy because we all do that. We'd like these things to come out very nicely. And, you know, here we are, we got up to this one, and now we faded. You know, we could, right in here, do another one where we've got the blade tool here, and maybe we'd like to let's see here, hit that one. So now let's take a look at this. So it's moving along, and I forgot to put a blade right here. So see, we're doing this together live. So there are those changes going on that I have to look for. So since we're scrubbing through this together, so there we go. We've got that. We've got the roof and everything up, but we can reintroduce when it was still that vacant piece of property. And so right here, I could add another transition. I'm just making sure that these things look smooth to us and that they're not bouncing up and down. So if we just come back to this one, and we've got that rooftop, we should have this nice transition fade in here. So I have a little bit of work to do with that one to fix it. But I think you're getting the idea. So we're not going to go around and do this entire thing. But when it's all said and done for the presentation, the client sees, and as you can see, we don't have the motion tracking text on there yet. The client sees the first visit, then the client sees that second visit, and the client then sees that third visit. So this is all looking really, really good to me. And we could now go ahead and drop in that motion text as well. We're not going to do this whole Final Cut tutorial thing here. So if you are interested in the motion tracking text for doing a time-lapse construction site, let me know down in the description below or in the comments below, and we'll see about doing a video on that for you. But so in the end, when we're all set with this, usually our clients are getting presented with two-dimensional orthomosaic models with video time-lapse like what we just walked through. Also still image time-lapse where we take still images from the same locations using Litchi or Drone Harmony or any of the other ones that you prefer. We can take still images from the same location time and time again so that we can also do a series of stills for the clients to see, highlighted areas on their properties that they're interested in. So be sure when you're talking to your clients to not neglect the idea of video time-lapse progression. It is a very valuable tool. And just like the two-dimensional orthomosaic before and afters, this tells such a story to our clients, whether it's the builders to show them they're on the schedule, the buyers who want to know when their home is going to be move-in ready, the realtors so that they can show how the buildings came together if they track this beforehand. So there's a lot of different people who could be interested in this type of service from your drone business. So don't confine yourself to one part. And as I've said on this channel, we've been doing a lot of 2D and 3D talk with WebODM and Metashape and examples of Pix4D and things. And I didn't want to forget this type of video presentation. It does up the value of what you're presenting to the customer. It also gives you a little more room to increase your price for the full service. Now, normally for most of these job sites, whether we're doing larger construction or single family residential, usually the initial setup where we're creating those paths on Litchi, that setup takes a little bit of time. But once you've gotten the setup done, let's say you're doing a big multifamily residential, apartment complex or townhomes or condos, as those things are getting built out, they're much bigger. And so it's going to take a little more time to document it initially, but then you're not having to reset every time you go visit that property. You've got the flight paths created for yourself. You've got the still image waypoints created for yourself. And it does make things a lot easier when you're on site. So that first setup of getting this first phase around here is very important because, as you can see, once again, we're going to reuse this over and over again for each stage of the project. So that way, in the end, when it's move-in ready, this customer can have the raw land video and have the final video of the home move-in ready. And we can put together a really nice cinematic presentation for them that they can show off to friends and family. Or if this is for a builder or a realtor, they might want this documentation to hand along to their clients afterward as well. So this does affect a lot of stages of construction and purchasing of real estate. All right, everyone. So like I said, this is not a complete guide. This gives you a very good overview. And if you need to know more about this, drop notes down below in the comment section as well, or pop on by classes.azdrone.net and you'll see one Litchi for business applications and then a full construction progression job site that also utilized Litchi in our Clark Wayland site that we did. And it really does bring you from start to finish, from the setup to the finish and what you're going to be delivering to your clients. So you might want to check those out as well. Finally, on our channel, we do have a full class bundle at classes.azdrone.net, and that class bundle is marked down $150, has 14 classes in it, including stuff covering what we're seeing here. And with the coupon code OUCH, all caps, OUCH, you can get that $150 off for our full collection of drone and imaging training classes for your drone business. All right, everyone, we're off. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you've got a good idea of how these construction progression time lapses can work and how they might factor into your drone business as well. We'll see you again really soon. Have a great start to the week, everybody.